Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss another horrible case with you. In a shocking tale of betrayal and tragedy, Sarah Barrass and her brother Brandon Machin were revealed to be at the center of a horrific family secret that led to the deaths of 2 children. As a facade of a loving family crumbled, the dark truth of their incestuous relationship and chilling plot to silence their offspring surfaced, igniting outrage and questions about child protection. How could a seemingly devoted mother and her brother turn into the monsters lurking within their home? In 2019, Sarah Barrass, a seemingly single mother of 6 children, was praised for raising her kids on her own. However, the dark truth behind her family's life was revealed in a devastating way. Sarah was not raising her children alone. Her brother, Brandon Machin, was helping her. Brandon, who lived nearby, acted as a father figure to the children. But the relationship between Sarah and Brandon was far more sinister than it appeared. They harbored a dark secret that would lead to the tragic deaths of 2 of their children. Sarah Barrass's troubled upbringing. Sarah Barrass was born in 1984 in Sheffield, UK, where she grew up in a chaotic household. She was one of 5 children, all of whom had different fathers. Her mother's home was unstable, with various boyfriends coming and going. Sarah and her siblings were neglected and grew up with little structure. No bedtimes, no meal times, and no requirement to attend school. In this chaotic environment, the children were exposed to drugs, alcohol, and possibly sexual. Sarah, in particular, suffered from sexual abuse by multiple perpetrators at a young age. Social services eventually intervened, and all 5 children were placed into care. At the age of 9, Sarah Barrass was returned to live with her mother, re-entering a tumultuous household that was far from stable. During this time, she grew particularly close to her older brother Brandon, who was 4 years her senior. Brandon had already exhibited aggressive and violent tendencies from a young age, often bullying and physically attacking not only his peers, but also his own siblings. His behavior was alarming, as he frequently displayed a lack of empathy and a propensity for cruelty. In stark contrast, Sarah initially presented as a quiet and shy child, seemingly overwhelmed by the chaotic environment around her. However, as she spent more time with Brandon, she began to imitate his violent behavior. This shift marked a significant change in Sarah's demeanor. She gradually adopted aggression as a coping mechanism and began lashing out at others, including her younger siblings and peers. The influence of Brandon's aggression had a profound effect on her development, as she internalized the notion that violence was an acceptable way to express emotions and exert control. The inappropriate relationship begins. As Sarah grew closer to Brandon, their relationship became inappropriate. When Sarah was 14 and Brandon was 18, they began sending love letters to each other, expressing romantic feelings. Their mother discovered the letters and reported the relationship to social services, but no action was taken. When Sarah turned 16, the legal age of consent in the UK, their relationship became sexual. Over the years, Sarah and Brandon continued their incestuous relationship in secret, even though it was illegal. Sarah eventually became pregnant by her brother and gave birth to their first child, Blake. She hid the identity of the father from everyone, telling hospital staff that Blake's father didn't want to be involved. Over the next few years, Sarah gave birth to 3 more children, all fathered by Brandon. Despite the growing number of children, Sarah and Brandon maintained their secret, with Brandon living down the street and posing as an attentive uncle. The children begin to suffer. As the children grew older, it became apparent that they had significant developmental disabilities, likely due to the incestuous relationship of their parents. Blake was diagnosed with autism and ADHD, while Tristan, the second eldest, was diagnosed with ADD and had severe allergies. The 2 youngest children also had special educational needs. Despite the challenges, Sarah managed to maintain the facade of being a single mother, raising her children with the help of her brother. Social services regularly visited the home, but never questioned the true nature of Sarah and Brandon's relationship. The children, unaware of the truth, believed their father was a war hero who had died in World War II, a story Sarah had concocted to explain his absence. The children's behavioral problems. As Blake and Tristan entered their teenage years, they began exhibiting disturbing behaviors. Both boys became obsessed with pornography and started acting sexually towards their younger siblings. Sarah, horrified by their actions, reported their behavior to social services, hoping for help. Despite her efforts, social services only advised her to keep the older boys away from the younger children, offering no substantial assistance. Tristan, in particular, began to display increasingly troubling behavior. He expressed suicidal thoughts and, at one point, told Sarah he wanted to stab himself in the heart. Blake, meanwhile, had sexually charged conversations with strangers online, adding to Sarah's growing concern. The final straw. Social services begin to investigate. In 2019, a local parent accused Tristan of sexually assaulting their child, prompting social services to intensify their investigation into the family. For the first time, social services demanded to know the identity of the children's father. Sarah, terrified that her relationship with Brandon would be exposed, panicked. She believed that if the truth came out, her children would be taken away and placed into care. Desperate to keep their secret, Sarah and Brandon concocted a horrific plan to murder all 6 of their children. The murder plot unfolds. On May 23, 2019, Sarah and Brandon attempted to poison their 4 eldest children by forcing them to take an overdose of ADHD medication. However, the plan failed. The children became sick, but they survived the night. The next day, Sarah and Brandon decided to take more direct action. They entered the bedroom where Blake and Tristan were resting. Sarah strangled Tristan with a dressing gown cord while Brandon strangled Blake with his hands. Both boys struggled and pleaded for their lives, but Sarah and Brandon were relentless. After ensuring the boys were dead, they placed plastic bags over their heads to make sure they wouldn't survive. After murdering Blake and Tristan, Sarah and Brandon turned their attention to their 3rd child, attempting to drown him in the bathtub. Fortunately, this murder attempt failed, and the child survived. Realizing the enormity of their actions, Sarah barricaded herself in a room with her 4 surviving children and sent a series of frantic text messages stating, "He's trying to kill us, and Tristan and Blake are already dead." The aftermath: arrest and trial. Fortunately, the friend who received the alarming message immediately took action and contacted the police. At 7:45 a.m., just 45 minutes after Sarah informed Brandon that her overdose attempt had failed, law enforcement descended on the scene in a dramatic fashion. The situation quickly escalated into chaos, with 15 police cars rushing to the house and 4 ambulances stationed nearby to provide immediate medical assistance if needed. In addition to the police presence, the authorities took precautionary measures by shutting down a nearby primary school, transforming it into a command base. The rapid response reflected the seriousness of the situation, as helicopters circled overhead, adding to the frenzy. The neighborhood was thrown into a state of panic, with residents speculating that a mass shooting or another catastrophic event was unfolding right before their eyes. As the police worked to assess the situation, the atmosphere was charged with tension and uncertainty. Neighbors watched from their windows, their imaginations running wild as they tried to comprehend the scale of the emergency response. The frantic scene outside was a stark reminder of the potential dangers lurking behind closed doors, leading to heightened concerns about safety and the well-being of everyone involved. This critical moment highlighted not only the urgency of the situation, but also the importance of community awareness and swift action in times of crisis. Ultimately, it underscored the need for appropriate interventions to prevent tragedies and protect vulnerable individuals from harm. They found Sarah and the surviving children barricaded in a bedroom. Blake and Tristan were discovered with plastic bags over their heads, still alive but in critical condition. Despite the efforts of paramedics, both boys died in the hospital shortly after. When the police brought Sarah in for questioning, she handed them a page from her notebook with the title, "Funeral Arrangements," at the top. During the police interview, Sarah immediately tried to shift all the blame onto her brother and lover, Brandon. For the first time, Sarah admitted to someone else that Brandon, her brother, was the father of all 6 of her children. a revelation that likely caught the police completely off guard. She explained that social services were on the verge of discovering their incestuous relationship and the fact that they had 6 children together. Sarah claimed that Brandon coerced her into the plan to kill all of the children in order to keep their secret from being exposed to the world. Sarah and Brandon were swiftly arrested and faced serious charges, including the murders of their 2 children, Blake and Tristan. They were also charged with the attempted murder of their 3rd child and conspiracy to murder all 6 of their children. The severity of these charges reflected the horrific nature of the crimes and the profound betrayal of parental trust. As investigations progressed, both Sarah and Brandon eventually confessed to the murders. Brandon's admission revealed a disturbing motive. He expressed that his desire to kill the children was fueled by the sexual assault allegations against Tristan. This chilling revelation added another layer of complexity to an already tragic narrative, as it highlighted the extent of the dysfunction and turmoil within the family. The confessions led to widespread media coverage, with the case sparking public outrage and concern about the welfare of children in similar situations. The circumstances surrounding the murders raised critical questions about the role of social services and community resources in preventing such tragedies. Many were left to ponder how a situation could escalate to such a devastating outcome, emphasizing the need for increased vigilance and intervention when signs of abuse and neglect are present. In the aftermath of the arrests, the broader implications of the case resonated within discussions on mental health, child protection, and the failures of systems designed to safeguard vulnerable individuals. The heartbreaking event served as a stark reminder of the potential consequences of unresolved issues within families and the urgent need for effective support and intervention. In September 2019, both Sarah Barrass and Brandon Machin pleaded guilty to their charges. In November 2019, they were sentenced to life in prison, 35 years before they would be eligible for parole. Thanks guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a comment and subscribe. There are many shocking cases ahead of you. Until then, stay safe.